Ohio State 70, Grambling State 0. Mick Walker on hand to watch it, as well as myself, Spencer Holbrook. We're going to get to that and a lot more in a rapid reaction. Presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find grills, canopies, jerseys, and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, and all at undefeatable prices every day. Shop Academy at locations throughout Ohio, including Zanesville, Boardman, and Springfield. Fun can't lose, and neither can you with tailgate gear from Academy. Go to academy.com today. Academy Sports and Outdoors, proud sponsor of the show. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks to Academy for sponsoring. Thanks to Mick Walker for joining me for the aftermath of Ohio State 70, Grambling State 0, a game that everyone knew was going to happen. Ryan Day knew what the reality was. Mickey Joseph, the head coach at Grambling, knew what the reality was. Ohio State knew what the reality was, and Grambling did as well. And I think that's where we should start, Mick, is everyone knew this was going to happen. And so now it's over, and it came in the way of 70-0 with Julian Sayin almost going perfect in the first half.
That was
but he
a
didn't.
Mick Walker bold prediction. I said 13 for 13. He went above that, though, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, and I'll let you gloat, because I'm going to gloat at the end of the program anyway. Jeremiah Smith was fantastic. 5 catches, $119, and two scores? Yeah, 2 scores. 2 of them basically wide open. Easiest touchdown he'll have in his life, unless he's playing the Oregon secondary in the Rose Bowl again.
That was a record as well, wasn't it? The first one?
87 yards was the second longest play from scrimmage in the history of Ohio State football. Or pass in the history of Ohio State football, and the third longest play from scrimmage in Ohio State history. So there's a lot of history made here, but the reality is Ohio State won 70-0. And
which one of the touchdowns was your favorite? Because there were 10 of them.
Ooh, good cue, Mick. Good cue.
I said personally, because I saw him as a senior last year, and then he got injured shortly after. Seeing Isaiah West get on the field and actually get to score a touchdown in an Ohio State jersey, I imagine it's been about a year since he's actually got to play full contact football. So awesome for Isaiah and his family, and this gave Spencer enough time to come up with his favorite of the 10.
I'm going to go with the first one, only because, first of all, it's a tight end day. No, we'll get there. It's a tight ends day. The tight ends were fantastic today. They had 104 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. One of them to Jelani Thurman, the other one to Will Kazmarek, which is my favorite one of the day. It was a 47-yard touchdown pass. It was the first time that we've seen Ohio State so far this season, and it's just 2 games obviously, but so far this season, use the seam to their advantage. You know that you have to defend Carnell on one side and Jeremiah on the other, so you can send a tight end up the seam. What do you get? A 47-yard touchdown pass, not to Max Clare, but to Will Kazmarek. So for many reasons, but mostly because we saw Ohio State do what I thought they should do this season, and I think they will continue to do that. We saw a tight end not named Max Clare show that he can be very good in the passing game, and so that gives you confidence in more guys than one. And also for Will Kazmarek, who is a guy who transferred up, who is a really underrated player on this offense, who does a lot of dirty work, to see him get a long touchdown catch, good for him. So I'll go with the first one. We'll get. I promise we'll get to the other part of that.
And we'll get to the Julian. We can maybe build off of that. You stepped away because you wanted to be one of the 100 people that talk to Jeremiah Smith, as it happens every time Jeremiah Smith talks. But Ryan Day was talking about the tight ends and talked about Julian Sayin's throw on that Will Kazmarek touchdown specifically, because for anybody that doesn't follow recruiting, they do a cool 1-inch drill every summer just kind of see if a quarterback has touch. And Ryan Day even shouted out that drill, the 1-inch throw on that seam touchdown pass. So obviously, that's one. Ryan Day's very quick to make sure he tells us he wants to watch the film, but it seems like that's one that stood with him after today as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a perfect throw. And here's what I asked Ryan Day about after the game, because, look, it's 70-0. And again, everyone knew what was going to happen in this building today. This was not a talent-equated game. Ryan Day even opened his press conference with, this wasn't a matchup game. So everyone knew it was going to happen. So what did we want to see from Julian Sayin? Well, we wanted to see accuracy. We wanted to see touch on the football. We wanted to see precision. And we wanted to see a string of really good throws. And that really set the tone for what we were going to see the rest of the afternoon. He was crisp. He was on point. And look, that's a completion against 136 FBS teams and Grambling. It doesn't matter who they're playing. That kind of throw, that was a pinpoint, accurate throw over the middle. The Jeremiah Smith play. Yeah, Jeremiah's wide open, but you got to hit him. That's 44 air yards, and that was on a rope. That didn't have a ton of air under it.
The Carnell Tate touchdown is another touch one.
Yeah, the Carnell Tate touchdown was another one that you've got to have some touch on. I come away from this game, as far as Julian Sayin, really impressed with what he put forward today. And I know what you're thinking, America. It's Grambling State. I get that. But there are things that you can take away from this. Talent and opponent not dependent. that tell you that he took a big step forward today, and I'm going to write about that for LettermenRow.com.
And I think you can even see it. Correct me if I'm wrong. The interception to when he was trying to throw it to Carnell Tate came before Jeremiah Smith's second touchdown. Correct?
No.
No, I'm wrong. I don't know. There was a lot of patience on that Jeremiah Smith second touchdown. He kind of let it wait for it to come open. There was a lot of impatience on the other Carnell Tate touchdown. Just the stacking of different things that he's improving upon.
I don't like that Julian Sayin threw an interception.
Ryan Day is not as well either. He said no more interceptions for the rest of the season.
But if you're going to throw a bad interception, that should have probably been a pick six. Do it in this game when Ryan Day even admitted in the press conference that they were pressing the envelope. They wanted to see how much Julian can handle. They really had the gas down with him today. They were going tempo. They were seeing what they could call and what they couldn't call with him, how much he could do. There came a point where, yeah, it would have been cool if he went 17 for 17 with however many touchdowns and however many yards. Yes, that would have been awesome. But get that first one out of the way. Understand, hey, I can't make that decision again. It's a really good teaching moment, and it's much better for it to happen there than to happen on the road at Washington in a few weeks when you haven't taught him anything based on how to respond off an interception. Also, he didn't go, Ohio State didn't need him after that. But the way he responded to that, I think, tells Ohio State what they have in their young quarterback. And so I'm not going to excuse it. I thought it was a bad throw. It was his only bad throw, but it was a poor throw.
Very indecisive of Julian in that situation. There's a Jeremiah Carnell thing crossing the end zone. It seems like he waited really long and then just kind of winged it over there.
Yeah, so it wasn't a good throw, but I think that there is a silver lining to it that you can kind of build off of and teach off of for him, that he's going to look back in November if this team's 11-0 going into the Michigan game and saying like, okay, like I learned a lot from that throw against a really bad team that kind of helped me become the quarterback I am today. So, I think it's okay.
And last week's a little bit different because, like you said, talent equated game, matchup game. Like you have Texas and at the time number one team coming to the stadium. So Ryan Day's got to focus on what we want to do special teams wise or defense wise. He's got to consider all this. So it was a lot of Keenan Bailey talking to Julian Sayin in between the TV timeouts last week about, hey, this is what Billy Fessler or Brian Harline sees from the booth. This week it was a lot of Ryan Day just going over and saying, hey, I don't know what he was saying exactly, but just giving Julian little nuggets between these timeouts of kind of maybe, it's the testing him, teaching him. Here's the thing that you want to learn from this. Here's what we're coming out with this play. I want to see this out of you. It seemed like Ryan Day was very hands-on with Julian Sayin, and that's what a 70-0 win allows you to do, is get real hands-on with guys to make sure you're teaching and what is it? What's Ryan Day's big mantra right now? Completing the race or race to get better?
Race to get better. They're in a race to get better. He said it twice now. Mick, let's do this really quickly, and then we'll go on to the defensive side. Who's an offensive young standout to you? You said Isaiah West. So
I said Isaiah West. I thought, obviously, when we talk about Bo Jackson, it was a funny moment whenever we do talk about, because Carlos Loughlin got on Bo Jackson's behind when he scored the first touchdown because he just dropped the ball in the end zone instead of handing it to the ref. He made him go out and apologize back to the ref before the PAT. But I'll actually go with Justin Terry, who was getting a little bit of the second-team right tackle reps, which I was impressed by. The West Virginia transfer. Obviously, West Virginia lost today. We'll talk about that again later. I just like teasing Spencer with the idea of it. But him getting second-team right tackle reps was interesting to me because I didn't know he was – that's the biggest thing we learned today is Riley Pettijohn's your fourth linebacker. Justin Terry's your backup right tackle. Some of these things we didn't know today, and now we kind of learn more information. So I'll go Justin Terry.
Yeah, and I'm going to go Bo Jackson, obviously. I mean, over 100 yards on the ground. He had the long run there at the very end. He ices the game with a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. Look, again, we don't have to act like he's doing this against the 85 Bears. We're not going to act like that. We're not even going to act like he's doing it against Rutgers or Maryland or Northwestern, the bottom of the Big Ten.
It's the Grambling Tigers.
When Grambling ran out here today to start the game, I was like, okay, we know what's going to happen. But the burst, the athleticism, the willingness to go to contact, I thought you could take some of that and translate it to seeing Bo in different action. And I think you will see him in more action moving forward. I think they wanted to see him on the field in this game and see how he responded to some hits, see how he responded to doing things at the Division I college football level. Now, maybe he gets some carries against Ohio. Maybe he gets some carries, probably not at Washington, but maybe when you come home and you play Minnesota, things like that. I just come away pretty impressed with Bo Jackson. Now let's move over to the defensive side. Look, this defense was never going to be challenged. They weren't. They were. They played really well against Texas. Now they did the thing against Grambling State. They've already got a shutout. They're giving it 3.5 points a game through 2 games. That's remarkable. But who's a young standout on the defensive side? because we're not going to sit here and say, oh, they really did a good job against this Grambling rushing attack. No, we're not going to do that. But, like, who was a young defensive standout?
I feel like he was going to get taken regardless. I'm going to say Riley Pettijohn just because he had the defensive touchdown. But I honestly thought his most impressive play, there was a play, I think, in the third quarter where he met the running back in the hole, and he kind of got a pop out of the crowd because it was a straight up, I don't think Riley has a wrestling background, but it was a straight up double leg right into the turf for that tackle. And then I'll piggyback on him a little bit and go to TJ Alford because he had a play there in the third quarter as well where he just kind of knifed around, got a TFL. So both those young linebackers, everybody talks about Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, but Ohio and Peyton Pierce obviously got a ton of playing time as well. But those freshman linebackers are going to be special. Eli Lee as well got in the game.
Hey, my defensive standout is Joey Velasquez out there. No, I'm just kidding. He's been in the news lately. Got to give him a shout out. He was out there a little bit on defense.
Well, good game, Joey.
Yeah, good to see him. Definitely eligible. My defensive standout is actually Aaron Scott. It's just one play, but I think it tells you a lot about where he's at in his development. He sees the football being thrown his way. He puts his foot in the dirt or in the turf. He drives on it and makes an interception. Now, I said something to him after the game. I asked him, I said, Aaron, you almost had one. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. He was pretty upset about it because he still thinks he caught it. Now, the ball did hit the ground.
I told our colleague Jeremy Birmingham in the photo bunker because we were looking at it on the video. If you're going to call the Texas touchdown the Texas got last week, I don't know how you call one, reverse the Sonny Styles interception or reverse this interception today.
But let's not rest on that because he's a DB for a reason instead of a wide receiver. They drop him sometimes. But I thought it was really impressive of what he did driving on the football. I think that's a good confidence boost for him, even if he drops the interception, where, hey, we need a corner out there. Aaron, go. It doesn't have to be Devin Sanchez. And so if you
also played well.
Yeah, but if you can get 4 corners deep here, I think you're feeling a lot better right now about where you're at based on what you saw from Aaron Scott today, even though, again, it was against a way lesser than competition. But I do like what I saw from him today. And then another guy I just wanted to shout out because I think that he deserves the credit. I thought Fahim Delane played well.
You go off on him, and then we'll talk about, because we talked about Matt Patricia's defense and we'll talk about that in a second after you lambast about Fahim Delane for a second.
Fahim Delane, I thought he played well. I thought he was good, instinctual, got to the football when he needed to, made a couple of tackles, played violent, played downhill. That's what a safety of his stature, his size, his pedigree on the recruiting trail, like that's what you want to see from him. And then the other one that you have to shout out because he played like he deserves more playing time. And I think he does deserve more playing time. Zion Grady. I thought Zion Grady was fantastic in the second half. He's out there in the second half against the backups at Grambling. I get it. Again, we're couching all of this. But he deserves more playing time against Ohio. And then what he does against Ohio will determine what he can do in Big Ten play. But a freshman who looked the part today, I thought 15 on defense looked pretty good.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Obviously, Zion Grady plays defensive end. That's what he played when he got in. But it was just fascinating to see. You and I talked before. What does Matt Patricia's base defense look like? What is the vanilla version of it? And Fahim Delane comes in, and he comes in with Malik Hartford and Leroy Roker, and you're like, that's 3 safeties. But then with Fahim Delane's playing pretty much exclusively nickel, bouncing around on the inside, lining up, and they kept
almost like a Caleb Downs type role.
And then you get in there, and obviously Grambling's running the ball, so they changed it up a little bit. But again, TJ Alford's lining up kind of on the edge. You have Will Smith Jr., Eric Mensah, Trajan Odom, like all these young defensive tackles are all in there kind of together, and you go, so they're playing 3 defensive tackles in one end. And like there's just some base things that it's like this is not just obviously you want to adapt to the personnel for every game, and that includes CJ Hicks and some of these guys that are more senior, but they are still playing this kind of exotic stuff that Matt Patricia wants to do even with these freshmen because that's what they got to learn.
Yeah, and I liked what 11 did today too. I thought CJ Hicks was pretty good today. So, he had 19 snaps last week against Texas. I believe that was the number. Plays a lot today. I think they're starting to put a little bit more on his plate. You can see it with him, and it's starting to come on. I thought we talk about him as a pass rusher a lot. He made 2 straight run stops, one of them at the line of scrimmage. I think it's starting to click for him as far as run defense goes. And I'm not, I would talk to CJ about this maybe. Maybe I can talk to CJ about this because I talk to CJ from time to time. He's pretty open with us. I think he would even admit he's more of a pass rushing guy. But if he can get that run defense down, you're adding another layer to that, and I think he can play more. I thought he was good in run defense today. So we'll see where that goes. Mick, any parting thoughts? We don't need to spend all night out here. I'm going to go home and watch Michigan and Oklahoma.
We'll give a hat tip to the final. It's going to go unnoticed. Obviously, nobody's going to go back and watch this. Maybe you will now, but the final kickoff of the game, all walk-on kickoff, all special, all scout team guys. So hat tip to all those guys for earning the playing time. You could hear it from kind of the sideline, the pop of, oh, all these guys are actually getting in because they bust their hump all week to get the starters ready, and now they got their opportunity for a kickoff. So hats off to those guys, and we talked about it before, so we just want to make sure we mention that. That's my parting thought.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's a really good hat tip from the Ohio State coaching staff to say, like, hey, thank you for what you do. You're in the game at Ohio Stadium, and there's only 35,000 people in here at that point, maybe even fewer. But hey, you got in the game at Ohio Stadium.
Just knowing the situation, letting those guys play, and it's the same thing with Isaiah West, Bo Jackson, Will Merrick all scoring a touchdown. The elation on their face when they score across the end zone. It's just understanding the situation, rewarding guys for putting in the work, and that's what you do with those youngsters. That's what you do the walk on, and even Will Merrick.
Yeah, and now we move forward. Ohio State now on the other side of a 70-0 game against Grambling. Now we'll play the Ohio Bobcats, who all of a sudden look like a little bit more than what we've thought when this schedule got released. I'm not going to go full homer here. I graduated from Ohio.
This says Mac right here.
I graduated from Ohio. I am an Ohio Bobcats football fan. I don't root for Ohio State. I cover Ohio State, so my fandom goes to Ohio. Huge win today against West Virginia. Ohio State fans probably don't care. The ramifications for the Ohio football program with that win are immense. I mean, immense. To beat a regional rival like that, you consider them a rival, they consider you a little brother. It would almost be like Cincinnati beating Ohio State. It is huge for them. Now, next week is a massive spot for them in this stadium. Lettermen Row will be here covering it like we do 365 days a year. Ohio State now has to face the defending MAC champions, who are coming off a big win and probably have a lot of momentum on their side. However, if I know anything about the great, wonderful city of Athens, Ohio, there's going to be a good time had tonight. Recovery might be a little tough.
Could be a good time had next Saturday, 7 o'clock kickoff.
It's going to be fun. There's going to be a night game in the shoe. Ohio and Ohio State, an in-state rivalry a little bit. I know all my Ohio friends hate Ohio State. So it is a nice little one-sided rivalry, but a rivalry nonetheless. Ohio State 70, Grambling nothing. Now the Buckeyes get to face the MAC champs from last year. And it should be a good time. And guess what? It might provide a challenge for Ohio State. Ohio is good. Like, they almost beat Rutgers.
It's a step up from Grambling.
For sure. And I think it's the perfect segue from Grambling into the bye week before Washington. So we'll see what happens. We'll be back in this building next week at 7 p.m. for Ohio State and Ohio. It's on Peacock, or you can just join us in the Horseshoe. We'll be here. Lettermen Row's Mick Walker. Lettermen Row's Jeremy Birmingham and Austin Ward. They're filming their stuff for 97.1 and 10 TV over there.
Tell the camera what, Spencer. You know what? They scored 70 points. So if you guys join Lettermen Row today, 7 days, your first 7 days of the subscription, $1. That's a deal from us for you guys for the 70-0 win.
There you go. It's a Grambling celebration. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. That's just Mick Walker. We're here inside the Horseshoe in the aftermath of 70-0. Ohio State kills Grambling by all.
Blanks.
Yeah, blanks them, shuts them out. It's always good to get a shutout no matter who you're playing. The Buckeyes, they're hard to come by. The last time they had one was last year against Purdue. After that, I don't really remember the last one. But Buckeyes 70-0. Mick and Spencer, we're going to get up to the press box, get some work done, then go home. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. As always, we can't do this without you guys, the wonderful fans. We'll see you guys over at LettermenRow.com. Thanks for being here.